I would say to establish racial confusion. Do you see? And to, like, I think that there's a deliberate program that's going on from what I can see. Do you see, where a deliberate plan, like there was an article in the Washington Post some time ago saying, since black women are so disappointed with black men, they should try white men. And that's where the scandal program comes in. In other words, instead of black people understanding racism, white supremacy as a system and engaging in black self-respect, thinking, speaking, and acting, then the white supremacy system says, no, what we want to do is put them in a state of confusion and worshiping white. So then they will not challenge the system of racism, white supremacy. You see, in other words, instead of black men and black women looking at each other, and because they have high levels of respect for themselves as individuals, they end up with high level respect for one another. And they relate 24/7 as though they have high levels of respect for themselves and for each other. And because they love themselves and respect themselves, then they become a challenge to racism, white supremacy. And they raise their black children to have respect for black. And so then they challenge the unjust system of racism, white supremacy. See, instead of that, no, let's have, under the conditions of racism, white supremacy, let's pretend, I don't know whether to say black people wanted to pretend that Thomas Jefferson loved Sally Hemings. That was his black female slave. He didn't free her. She wanted to be free. But see, black people want to say, oh no, they had a love relationship. Just like people want to look at scandal and say, oh, that's a love relationship, please, in the system of racism, white supremacy. Think about all the slave masters who had children by African women. And those slaves were not free. It would be a parallel situation, white people having non-white children in a system of racism, white supremacy. If the white people, male and female, loved black people, then they would they would join a John Brown brigade and stop the white people who were practicing white supremacy, including themselves. See, think about that. White people having sex with black people is nothing new. For hundreds of years, white men rape black women. White men say they're not men until they've had sex with a black woman. Just like white women say their ideal mate is tall, dark, and handsome. They make these statements while running a system of racism, white supremacy. So black people need to be deeply knowledgeable and say, you know, if we really had self-respect, we would be saying, okay, as long as the system of racism, white supremacy exists on the planet, it will not be possible for black people to have sexual relations with people who classify themselves as white. As a matter of fact, all of the non-white people take that same position. And it's not about hate. It's until white people take responsibility for their behavior of conducting racism, white supremacy at a global level. So when they cease doing that, and when they themselves have annihilated the system of racism, white supremacy, then there can be a consideration of human beings who are really in a situation of equality engaging in sexual activity.